The White House saying it expects a tax reform plan to be announced within the next couple of weeks. One of the things President Trump says will be included is a lower corporate tax rate. But Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates is suggesting a new tax for U.S. companies, and it has to do with robots taking over human jobs.
Right now, if a human worker does, $50,000 worth of work in a factory, that income is taxed. If a robot comes in to do the same thing, you'd think that we'd tax the robot at a similar level.
So should there be a tax on robots? Let's bring in Oren Etzioni from the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence and Martin Ford, author of Rise of the Robots, Technology and the Threat of a Jobless Future. Martin, what do you think about this proposal?
Well, I think Bill's absolutely right that we need to rethink our taxation scheme. I mean, as jobs are automated, and it doesn't make sense to rely so heavily on taxes on labor. But I'm a bit skeptical of the idea specifically of a robot tax. For one thing, what exactly is a robot? If you're just talking about factories, maybe that's simple, but actually this is going to go way beyond factories. It's going to impact offices. It's going to impact, people sitting in front of computers, white-collar jobs, and then, of course, it's not a robot at all. It's just software. So how do you figure that out? Are you going to send the IRS in to analyze every piece of software and find out, is it automating jobs? So that's very complicated. Another thing is what happens if every country doesn't do this? For example, what happens if China doesn't have a robot tax? I mean, China right now is the biggest market in the world for factory robots. So obviously, if we tax robots and they don't, then that's going to be a competitive issue for us.
Yeah, Oren, the issue that was raised about what is a robot, I think, is the core one. And listen, I imagine a guy like Bill Gates especially has thought this through. But, when I've seen these prototypes, for example, one of these snake-like robot arms that can do precision manufacturing, how do you distinguish as to whether something that's 4 inches tall is the same thing as, something that looks like a human, like was in the diagram? I don't understand.
Right. It would be very difficult, and I think.
Go ahead, Martin. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Oren, please.
I was going to say, I think that Martin is right, that it is very difficult to distinguish between these different technologies. I think the bottom line is that this problem of losing jobs is very real, but this is the wrong solution. I don't think Mr. Gates would have been in favor of a tax on PCs at the time where PCs were surging and potentially low-level clerical jobs were taken away by PCs, by Microsoft Office. So we have here really an opportunity to increase productivity, which is something we all want. And as Martin said, we don't want to hand an advantage to foreign companies who won't be paying a robot tax.
Martin, the other thing, too, is that this will also similarly result in increased prices, I would imagine, for consumers. So if the case is, well, the border adjustment tax is bad because it would raise prices, well, any kind of tax, whether it's on robots or this, that, the other, would do the same thing. I mean, how high would that tax have to be that it would actually displace the robot and make somebody hire a worker instead?
Well, I think it would have to be quite significant because, robots are going to have many advantages beyond just the cost. It's really not just about saving money on labor. It's the fact that increasingly robots are going to do things that people can't do. They're going to outperform people. And so at some point, the robot is going to be, indispensable at any cost anyway. But again, I agree that it's really surprising to me that Bill Gates would actually say that this tax might slow automation because it's surprising that he would want to slow progress. This is progress, and what we want to do is leverage that progress, but we want to make sure that everyone benefits from that and not just a few people.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Martin Ford, Oren Etzioni.